Sonic Universe Issue 4. We started with Shadow and Rouge being reassured by Hope that the Special Zone Transporter will work this time because they've got a Chaos Emerald to work off. Just like that, they're transported to Feist, who surprisingly isn't that mad at Shadow for ordering him to tell him where to find the Chaos Emeralds. Feist says that they have to satisfy his challenge first to earn one of them, creating a special stage of a bridge over lava with spike balls. Oh, this is just the Genesis 3D Blast special stage. I was thrown off briefly by the loop-de-loop. I guess Shadow will have to grab Rouge during it, or go through it alone, because other than cheating and flying alongside the track, how could Rouge be fast enough to make it up a loop-de-loop? By the way, I'm not sure what the duh in loop-de-loop's supposed to be there for. Loop of loop? Loop from loop? Of course, Shadow tries to Chaos Control to avoid the special stage entirely, and is stopped by Feist, because he is the god of this domain. Then Feist says out of spite that Shadow's challenge began 30 seconds ago, and he has 30 more left. That's obviously unfair. He hasn't even set foot in the special stage yet. I kind of like that Rouge has the eyeglass message too though I'm not sure what its actual purpose serves in the story. And it's not green, so it doesn't look anything like it. Rouge isn't able to bypass the special stage because the air is too cold here and she can't get any lift. That doesn't make much sense. She could just say that Feist must be preventing her from flying to do that. So Shadow picks her up, and they immediately fail the challenge running out of time. Why can't they just go in there again and try again? And isn't it kind of backwards to use a Chaos Emerald for a Special Zone Transporter instead of just using 50 rings? A Chaos Emerald seems like overkill. After Shadow complains about failing so much, Omega lampshades that he must be stressed out for him to be the one to initiate a fight. Omega tells him not to worry about the mission failure and says confidently that he'll simply blast Feist. Yeah, blast a god, that'll work. How did Feist get in the Zone of Silence again? Why was he made the god of it and not one of the other people there? I guess we'll never know. When Shadow's sitting outside on a mountain cliff, moping, Hope briefly tries to cheer him up, saying that they can see all the way to Soliana from here, so Soliana's canon in this universe. And then Shadow complains that the reason he's feeling inadequate is that he thinks being the ultimate life form means he's not allowed to fail at anything. I like him having this perfectionist side to him. Hope shares her own angst with Shadow, and Shadow puts his hand on her shoulder and reassures her, saying that if anything, Snively saved her, and now she's helping fight Eggman with her own people. Hope reassures him with a sly smirk I like, that now Shadow has set himself up for future success, because he knows what Feist is all about. To cap off that sweet moment, she hugs him a little, and says that while she used to be afraid of Shadow, now she's able to relate to him because he's just as lost as she is making his way in the world. Shadow gets reminded of Maria, and smiles in contentment as Hope continues to hug him. I really like this. Like, even though Maria's not being brought back because that would cheapen her death, Shadow still has a Maria-like figure in his life. And Hope's engineering skills do kind of make sense since she's a Kinto-bore, maybe it runs in the family. It just comes out of nowhere to me when she started out as just a normal little girl. The next day, the gun commander is ready to try again, with Rouge lampshading the Team Dark name without explaining why she'd have any problem with it as an evil jewel thief. Omega says in the special stage that he has a sensory overload and has energy readings that aren't normally possible, and amusingly wants to fire his weapons in a futile attempt to try to regulate it. After Feist insults Omega and amusingly annoys him into wanting to fire at him again, Feist cheats once again by making a completely brand new special stage from last time. They'll have to navigate a cubic maze in a minute's time as he turns it. At least this is completely unique. Feist brags that already they failed because they all took the same entrance instead of splitting up. I doubt Shadow isn't as fast as Sonic in this universe, so why can't he just run all through the maze and find the center in seconds on his own? If it's because his friends will be left behind, they could just explain that they're the dead weight holding him back in this mission. Hopefully they get to do something useful finally. Shadow points out that two paths are dead ends, and zips around all over with the super speed to find all the dead ends and guide his friends ahead. So he's still taking advantage of his speed, but his friends are clearly slowing him down here. What a great message. Omega detects a concentration of energy ahead and just assumes it's a trap instead of the Chaos Emerald. And somehow he turns out to be right, as Shadow almost falls into a pit of spikes, even though the spikes aren't made of energy, letting Rouge finally be useful as she grabs him while flying over it with Omega hovering behind her. Yeah, that's a good point. Why doesn't Omega just hover on his own, separate from his friends and heroes, instead of getting into a fight formation and weighing everyone down? Feist surrounds the Emerald with crystal gems, being a jerk again as he could have had them there the whole time, and the three friends try to destroy the gems in time as Rouge lampshades that any other day she'd be grabbing as many of the gems as she could. As I expected, they failed the challenge because Shadow somehow wasn't fast enough to grab the emerald, and I really enjoy this next bit. Omega blasts fights with his fire power. It actually works, letting Shadow grab the emerald with a smirk while he's distracted. Rouge then has to tell the fire-happy robot to come along with them while he's still got more ammo left. And the three all make it back home with Shadow's chaos control as Shadow bragged that even a god must bow to the ultimate life form. Hope hugs Shadow as he smiles all happily, and Rouge congratulates Omega on a job well done. They have a pretty good dynamic, like Rouge is teasing Shadow in a friendly way instead of them genuinely bickering. Out of nowhere, the story ends in the future, with Lara Sue reassuring Knuckles and Julie that she can handle things while they're away. I'm excited! This issue was by Ian Flynn. I liked the way the special stage system was handled here, being like the games while having fights make the challenges so that it actually makes sense. So I'm sure it won't make any sense anymore come the reboot because having a person there to make the challenges would be too unlike the games. I liked that at first. Shadow fails the challenge because he didn't start early enough, and eventually after a whole issue of Feist cheating to be a jerk in ways like that, Shadow cheats to win the emerald by getting Omega to blast fights with firepower. I love that that actually worked, and that Rouge got to be useful by flying Shadow over some spikes, because without those spikes they would have been nothing but dead weight slowing Shadow down from just speeding to the emerald in seconds on his own. I also like that it has Rouge lampshading that she'd normally be ecstatic at seeing so many gems if they weren't trying to get an emerald under a time limit. It's clever writing, acknowledging what her character is. And I also liked it Shadow officially accepting Hope as a friend, which reminds him of Maria. It's sweet that they have that friendship together, like he gets to have a replacement for Maria that doesn't get destroyed like in Sonic X. So I guess it's official. This is the first Sonic Universe issue that I've actually been able to classify as good. Other than that, there was the Marine Has to Be Useless issue, the clumsy SA2 adaptation, and the previous issue.